G'day YouTube. Warbles on a lot here. Video of the day. Topic of the day. America's next trick. Yeah, you heard me right. America's next trick. What's it going to be? Well, it seems to me, standing up here in the forest on a ridge, 15 kilometres, maybe 10 miles out of town, maybe 130 miles, couple of hundred k's from the coast, 1,100 metres, 3,500 feet up above sea level. What's America's next trick going to be? Well, once again, you want to talk about America's next trick, you got to considerate. You got to wonder, you got to ponder, you got to backtrack, then you got to project, you got to extrapolate. You got to think about where they've been, where they are, where they've got momentum towards where they're headed. So, on the one hand, they've got a setup whereby the Congress has impeached their ex-president for the second time. The impeachment happened while the ex-president was still the president. But to make it stick so that they can stop the ex-president from ever standing again, then the Senate needs to confirm the impeachment or convict the president. And it yet appears to be that the Republican Party has a voting majority in the Senate. So various lawyers have refused to represent the ex-president on the grounds that he just wants to talk shit in court, and we don't want to lose our lawyer's license for perjuring ourselves in front of the court as officers of the court, because the ex-president wants to go in there and pretend that he won. He's being impeached for inciting an insurrection. In the excited status, because of a 1979 vintage memo, the convention is that the Federal Department of Justice cannot indict a sitting president. Cannot indict a sitting president. You have to wait till the president stops being the president and reverts to becoming a humble citizen before you can indict what used to be a sitting president for anything that they did that was wrong before they were president, during their presidency, or after their presidency. Like I said, it's a Department of Justice memo. It's not a law. It's not a regulation. It's not an article or a clause in the Constitution. It's not part of the Federal Crimes Act. It's just a convention dating back to Nixon. So therefore, thus and because, for the whole 4 years of Trumpy's prissy-duncy, a whole bunch of people, from individual citizens who were suing him for slander, libel, and defamation of character when he characterized their complaints about having been sexually assaulted by Trumpy, he characterized that as being lies. He called them a liar in a public forum, and he used the bully pulpit. So, yeah, they're suing him. The Southern District of New York is suing him because he used campaign donations from bottom feeders, little small donators. He used them to pay off a prostitute in order to not speak about their relationship during the election campaign. That's electoral fraud. He can actually go to jail for that. It's a state offence. He can't pardon himself. He didn't pardon himself. There's an awful lot of momentum along the lines that now Trumpy is no longer president. He's a simple citizen, therefore he is liable at law. He's responsible at law for everything he's done And if he had some kind of presidential shield against indictment, then he should have been tried and convicted by Senate and the Congress. He hasn't been convicted by the Senate, and it looks like he won't be in 2 days' time, because today is the 6th of February in Australia. So I'm kind of 2.5 days in front of America, calendar wise. So for me, it's a month since the insurgency. And in that time, I've had a little bit of a look at what's going on. I've been watching a lot of American television news YouTube channels who've uploaded to YouTube. So I get to see it a couple of weeks after it goes to air, perhaps, because it shows up in my feed when the algorithm notices that this little Australian has been watching a lot of this stuff. So they show me, and a lot of the people who went to the Capitol have been charged with misdemeanors and minor offences, but they've got a court date and they've been camera tagged and they've been paperwork tagged as having crossed the police line. A whole bunch of people spoke at Trumpy's Rabble Rousing Lynch-Mob dispatching rally when he sent them off towards the Capitol, and he said he was going to be there, and he said we have to fight like hell. Fight like hell. Rudy Giuliani said we should have trial by combat. I think, from my hillbilly understumbling of the American Federal Code of Justice and the Penal Code, I think I agree with the people who are saying that not only Trumpy, but everybody who spoke at the rally and everybody who he had conversations with via social media and text, setting up the rally and the expectation that, for example, the Proud Boys, who we told to stand back and stand by during the election campaign, the Proud Boys have been GPS tracked and tracked by their smartphone apps, which they were using for walkie-talkies. They were at every individual break-in site, leading the mob. They showed up at the Capitol 2 hours before the rally finished. They were specially equipped. They said they'd been trained. They showed up with zip cuffs, which are like zip ties for electrical work, which are specially manufactured for law enforcement, only available to law enforcement agencies, and they're sort of like a T-shape with 2 strips coming off them. And yeah, they're made as handcuffs. It's fairly obvious from what has been broadcast that the ultimate plot was to have not merely not merely a beer killer putsch moment, which is all Trumpy got out of it. What he was hoping for was a burning of the Reichstag moment. What Trumpy was expecting was for the Capitol Police, who were reduced and had no backup from the state National Guard, because Trumpy, as president, was in charge of Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, so there was no state governor to call in the National Guard. It was Trumpy's job. And Trumpy did not call in the National Guard, not like he did when Black Lives Matter were expected to come and maybe wave a flag at the statue of Lincoln. Oh, no. No. There was no beefing up of security because white supremacist insurgents were expected. A lot of the Capitol Guard did open the doors and befriend the rioters and the insurrectionists. But then it got a bit bloody willing there for a while, and I've seen the footage of the American Air Force veteran white woman who was climbing in through the window when the Secret Service shot her. I don't know whether it was the neck, the face, or the chest. But yeah, she was standing up waist high on a wooden partition trying to climb in through a broken window, and she got shot flat on her back, and by the time she hit the ground, she was in the middle of a 3-foot diameter puddle of blood, and she was motionless, man. That guy I think he got her common carotids, perhaps the arch of her aorta. Man, she bled out real fast. And that one shot, that was it. All of a sudden, all Trumpy's heroes decided that they were wannabes and they wanted to be home. They wanted to run away. They wanted to shave their fucking beards off. They didn't want to look anything like those defeated revolutionary insurrectionists who got hunted away from the capital. I personally expect that as soon as the Senate acquits Trumpy on his second impeachment, that's when the FBI is going to swoop. They've already figured out who these assholes are. They've arrested them. They've caught and released them. They've surveilled them. They've listened to all of everything they've said since they were released. They've backtracked them for everything they said for the past 3 months at least. They know who they're after, and people talk about the vast number of Americans who are willing to violently support Trump. I don't think there is such a vast majority. Let's just consider this. There are 320 million American citizens. 155 million out of 320 million voted. Less than half. Out of those who voted, 47% voted for Trumpy. That's your 74 million. Out of those who voted for Trump, so we're now down to less than half, 47% of less than half. So we're probably down to 22% of Americans actually voted for Trump. Out of those 22% who voted for Trump, 75% of them, they still believe that Trumpy won the election and he was robbed and boo-hoo and sob. And that was before the inauguration, when every one of the QAnon prophecies fell to shit, crashed and burned and withered, and it was gone. A lot of the people who were previously considered rusted-on supporters of Trump, as soon as the QAnon conspiracy failed to come to pass on the 20th, when Biden was actually inaugurated, when the Democrats weren't arrested, when martial law wasn't declared, all of a sudden the QAnon cohort, 3/4 of them woke up to themselves. So rather than 75% of the 74 million, which is 49, 50 million, who believe, so they said a couple of weeks ago, that Trumpy had won the election and it had been stolen from him and dead people voted. Yeah, 3 of them in the whole fucking country, and they all voted Republican. Rather than there being 50 million people who are prepared to violently support Trump, there might be a quarter of that. You might get 12 million Americans who honestly believe that, when the government comes to take my guns, I'm going to stand in my front yard and shoot them. There might be 1 in 8, 1 in 12, there might be a couple of million people all over America who are desperately keen to overthrow the deep state as they see it, because they still fervently believe that the Democrats are run by a secret cabal of satanic, devil-worshipping, pedophile communists, because that's what the QAnon conspiracy was about. Now, bear in mind that whereas in Germany in the 1930s, the German armed forces had sworn a personal oath of loyalty to Adolf Hitler, the American armed forces, since they were on their first day in kindergarten, have sworn an oath of loyalty to the American flag and the Constitution and the nation for which it stands, and they've sworn to protect that flag, Constitution, nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So whereas the generals in Myanmar were able to declare the election was fake news and run a coup and make it stick for a little while, Trumpy had already told the US military that he thought they were a bunch of suckers for joining the military, and the ones in the cemetery were fucking losers because they got killed in the military. That's why he had bone spurs, and he didn't understand why America had fought against Germany in the First World War or in the Second World War. So why did he have to be expected to go and look at a bloody cemetery full of dead suckers and losers in the rain? So Trumpy didn't actually have the option of calling in the military like they did in Bulgaria or Myanmar, aka Burma. And I've got to say, if the British Empire likes to look at the Belgian Congo and say that's why the Democratic Republic of the Congo is a charnel house and a shithole today, I'm pretty sure the rest of the world gets to look at Burma and say, yeah, well, that's what the British Empire hath wrought. That is what it hath wrought. Britain made Burma, which became Myanmar, and yeah, maybe Boris's Brexit tears need to come out and fix Burma for us, eh? The downstream consequences of colonialism. But anyway, for America's next trick, that's what I think is going to happen. I think it can be done without suspending the Constitution and declaring martial law, but that depends on just how explosively violent the Trumpletonians, the Trumpeteers, the dim damn dumb Fuckistanis, the QAnonymists, the hardline serious believers in Trumpletonianism choose to become. The figures I get from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the American Broadcasting Corporation, MSNBC, CBC, CNBC, Channel 4, The Guardian, what you would call reputable mainstream media outlets, they suggest that Mr. Biden at the moment, he's got 63% approval rating across the US electorate. Trumpy never ever reached 50%. Not once anywhere in his 4 years. The modern times record was Obama in his first 6 months of presidency. He reached 69% approval rating. Today I heard that Mr. Biden says he thinks not, when a reporter asked him, is Trumpy going to continue to get intelligence briefings? And Biden said, no, I think not. He didn't say as much, but it occurs to me that if Trumpy was getting intelligence briefings, then part of the intelligence briefing would be explaining to him which particular Secret Service operatives are going to fucking arrest him and Giuliani and General Flynn and Roger Stone and Jared Cunt Schnur and Ivanka, the skank, Melania, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., probably Sidney Powell, all of the people who've been enabling and facilitating and pushing Trump onwards and upwards towards his recklessly criminal insurgency to try and overthrow the American government. That my pillowed halfwit. I think they're all going to be charged with, they can't be charged with treason because treason involves a foreign government, although Trumpy's connection to Putin in Russia means Trumpy may be charged with treason. He may be convictable for treason because of everything that he said about Russia. You know, like, why would he listen to the American Secret Service when his good old mate, the prissy dunce of Russia, says that no, Russia wasn't involved? No. Yeah, so Trumpy may go for treason, which would make it sedition. But for everybody else, it's criminal incitement to insurgency, and it's an insurgency to overthrow the democratically elected government of the excited status of Norte Armed Americano. And if they think that their stockpile of ammunition and their basement full of guns and their 3 baked bean cans sitting in the cupboard, if they think that's going to enable them to withstand a siege against the local state National Guard, and it's entirely possible that Biden will take a leaf from the Australian Queensland Native Police and he'll use the state National Guard from Tennessee to go in to Arizona, and the National Guard from Arizona will go into Tennessee, and vice versa, all over the country. So when the state governors call for assistance against the Trumpletonian diehard rebels who want to go bang in the streets, it won't be their next door neighbours who are shooting them down. It'll be the loyalists from interstate. It'll be people who don't know them. So anyway, that's what I think is going to happen for America's next trick. Either republicanism and Trumpletonianism are going to completely crumble underfoot, or they'll make a fight of it. And if they make a fight of it, they will be soundly beaten and destroyed. And what the fuck is going to come out of that, I have no idea. But it's all very interesting. Absolutely fascinating, darlings. So, what can I say? Yeah, consider this to be a malt liquor video. Can you make any sense at all when you've got 1.7 standard drinks at per each on board? Discussing politics, the ways of the world, and weighing them in our little scales. Arr, such is life. Pass the popcorn, if you please. Thank you very much while it lasts. Wobbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.